Hello, and welcome to the Break the Illusion Empowerment Mini Course. I am Coach Christopher Lee, Certified Master Life Coach, Certified Yoga and Meditation Instructor, Certified Reiki Master, and many other labels that I've collated into the fiction that is Christopher Lee, who is this person sitting before you telling you all about empowerment and personal power and your story. Well, I want to welcome you and say congratulations on taking this first step. This is often the most difficult step to take, is to identify that we have something that's misaligned, or we feel in some way that we don't have the power to change our lives. That couldn't be more false, okay? We do have that power. We just have to find a way to break the illusion spun by the creation of our own personal narrative. And that's what I hope to bring you in this course, is a few ways in which we can identify the things that are holding us back and be able to take some of that power and bring it back into our body, our mind, and our soul, so that we can have those breakthroughs, those big things. So what I want to do is go ahead and just start this off. Boom. All right, break the illusion. I like to think of this as an illusion because the entire, I guess, kit and caboodle, for lack of a better term, about why we are missing these breakthroughs, why we're not living our best life, is because we've fallen into the illusion of our own story, our narrative that comes to us from many different areas, and we'll go into that. But it's that first identification that's very necessary. Some people call it awakening, some people call it enlightenment, but it's a remembrance that we do not belong to the story that we have decided on, right? We can always change that story whenever we need to, whenever we have the power to. And that is one of the reasons that we get stuck even after we have that awakening. You know, we've all been there. We say, I don't know if I can do this. I've awakened. I know there's something out of alignment, but I don't feel like I can take that next step. And that is a very crippling place to be in. And I can empathize. I have been there myself many times, and we'll go into my story a little bit in this recording too. But I want you to know that you're in good company, because everyone else in the world is dealing with the same things that you are. But you, in this video, in taking this course, in joining me at Practice Presence, my new coaching program and practice, have taken that first step. And if you follow along with what I've put together here in this mini course, you're going to find the first couple of pieces of the puzzle, and you'll be able to start taking those steps. So congratulations. Let's go ahead and move on. So the goal of this mini course is to illustrate some of the ways in which we stab ourselves in the back or sabotage ourselves by staying with a false narrative of who we are and how we show up in the world. So it's a little bit of a crash course on personal power, which is one of my main sticking points. I think that if you can find your personal power and bring it back into you, then you're going to have a much better chance at redefining who you are, being 1% better every day, and becoming the best version of who you are. Now, this course is set up to be consumed either like right out the gates. You can go through it right here. It's fairly short, or you can space it out over a couple of days and really take your time with some of the exercises I'll include in the modules. I want to talk for just a minute about power and how we give it away. We'll go over this a little bit in greater depth, but I think the number one issue that we face in the modern world is that we are stripped of most of our power. In fact, we give it away freely most of the time, and because of that, we feel drained. We feel anxious, we feel depressed, we feel out of alignment. We feel all of these things that keep us trapped in a narrative that says, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy. And although we can all resonate with that, there's very few of us who have decided to take that next step and to start to do the kind of gritty work that is necessary to free ourselves. Taking this course is one of those things. So let's start moving into some of this material. I can get kind of wordy, so hang with me here. So what are we going to talk about in this course? I said before, it's a wake-up call, and it really dials into suffering. Why it is that we suffer, and why that is needless and unnecessary. I have a cat here trying to knock over a picture because she doesn't like it when I talk loudly. I tend to be very quiet during the day, so the cat, she's going to come into the frame here. I know she is. Hey, come here. So you can see that I'm just a normal guy who has normal problems as well. So what we're going to talk about in this course is why we suffer and how we can stop that. How to take control of our life story, how to start eliminating, targeting, and dissolving limiting beliefs, and most important, the container for this entire experience is learning the art of presence, which is what I fondly call meditation practice or mindfulness in general. Okay, so course outline. I'll talk a little bit about each one of these points. I know my head is blocking one of them, so I'll walk you through it. The first module, we're going to talk about why we suffer. There's a famous quote, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So what is it that we do, or why is it that we choose to stay in a state of suffering, and what keeps us locked into the states of disempowerment? Number 2, we're going to talk about the problem of our story, of our false narratives, and how our own belief in that story, created by our ego and other things, is the first block to reclaiming our power. This is a really, really important piece of the puzzle, and so I'm really excited to get to that one. Number 3 is more of the practical kind of stuff. How do we rewrite the script? What are the things standing in our way, preventing us from flipping that script? Number 4 is all about our power, understanding how we can identify and start to manifest our true power. 5 is all about staying present, of course, which I love talking about, learning the sacred art of meditation. And number 6 is about 1% better every day. Just how do we get there? And how do we maintain a reasonable pace in creating our best life, breaking that illusion and building something new, as well as some bonuses there at the end for you. A little bit about me. Like I said before, my name is Christopher Lee. I'm a master life coach. Personal power is an exceptionally important topic for me, and it's one that I am uniquely intimate with, just because of some of the struggles that I went through with addiction, with abuse, emotional trauma that I carried for many, many years that took me down several roads, several paths, that led me into a state of depression, of severe anxiety, and an inability to take responsibility or accountability for the behaviors that I was living in, the pre-programmed behavioral patterns that I was stuck in. I was causing myself a great deal of suffering, just because I didn't want to deal with some of the scariest things that had come into my life, whether that was emotional trauma surrounding my parents, my father in particular, or in particular being terrified of realizing my own true power. And I think that is something that is a little bit understated when we talk about personal power. It's not the emotional trauma that we've suffered that is the biggest roadblock, in my opinion. In my opinion, I think it is that we are afraid to realize our power. We're not sure what we'll do with it. And it's easier to stay hidden in the shadows than take accountability for our actions. And when we realize this, we have this awakening moment where we say, oh my God, I have this infinite source of power to create, to manifest, and to create a new life, to be that person that we look up to. Then we start to freak out a little bit, because then it becomes our fault if we don't get there. And so we back ourselves off a little bit and we say, well, I don't know if I want to take responsibility for why I'm stuck right now. And I certainly don't want to take responsibility for all of the things that I can manifest if I realize my true power. And that can be a very scary thing to realize. But here's the good news, guys. The bad news is we create that suffering. We put ourselves in these positions, but the good news is we create our suffering. So we can do something about it, okay? What did I say here in this slide? For many years, I talked about that quite a bit. The entire world was out to stop me from being who I wanted to be, right? I'm sure everybody can relate to that statement. The entire world is out to get me. It's here to stop me from becoming who I really want to be. Ask yourself the question right now. Is the world really out to get you? Is the world really trying to stop you from becoming who you want to be? I'm going to play a little hard line here with you, a little hard truth. Most of the world doesn't even know you exist, and that's just the truth of it, right? But that's not necessarily a bad thing either. It's an enlightening thing for us, because when we readdress our worldview, when we take into account that the world isn't against us, then we start to see the problems that are holding us back. And there's a great deal of healing and addressing emotional traumas and negative beliefs that we need to do before we can just flip the switch. I know self-help is full of quick fixes for you to manifest $1 million or drive that big red Ferrari wherever you want in just a few quick steps, but that's really not how this works. In fact, it's devastating to take on that belief that you can just change this overnight. I think that there needs to be a certain amount of grit that you're willing to understand, a little bit of resilience and patience that you're going to need to adopt if you really want to do this and create lasting change in your life. Most, I even said it there, not even true whatsoever. The world just didn't even care about me or what I wanted to do. In fact, I was living a lie. My narrative was a lie. My worldview was a lie, and that lie was keeping me safe. But at the same time, that safety was also creating a ton of suffering for me. So why I created this course. About 7 years ago, I made a decision to fully change the way that I showed up in the world. The way that I thought, the way that I approached things, the way that I related to people and things. I wanted to make damn sure I was capable of doing this. I knew I could, but there was something just out of misalignment. And so I had to go and identify that thing. So over the last few years, I completely reinvented myself from top to bottom into the guy you see here, using a lot of the principles that I'm going to talk about here in this mini course. In fact, all of them, and then some more. So think of this as a roadmap for how you can flip your life script from somebody like me who was just sitting there surfing on couch to couch, getting blackout drunk, blaming everything that I had wrong with me financially or physically, or relationship-wise on everyone else around me, and how I took back all of that power and realized that it really was all on me, and I had to do the work. So I want to talk about personal power real quick, how power works, and I've got a nifty little chart here. I think that, and this is totally anecdotal, and the percentage there is just kind of there for a person. I think we operate each day with less than 20% of the full pie that we're working with as far as power. So if we take the entire amount of energy that we wake up with each and every day, or have in each and every moment, each and every breath, we have a lot of that pre-assigned. A lot of this is subconscious. It's stuff that we've accepted or stuff that we've decided is important. It's stuff that we think is true, or that we have been pre-programmed from our ancestors, from our society, from our peer groups, from our families. And you can see here there's labels. There's things like, my name is Christopher. Okay, that was the name given to me at birth. But how much energy do I need to devote to the name Christopher for me to really get what I want out of life? Do I have to be Christopher? No, not necessarily, right? In fact, I'm much bigger than that tiny little label. Or let's take my certifications as a life coach, my label as a spiritual guide, as a teacher, as all these things. The more of these things that you get, the less and less power you're going to have available to you, because it takes a certain amount of power to maintain that within our energy pie, as it is. We have other things in here, attachments, things that are unresolved or are draining us in some way. These can be relationships, misaligned relationships in particular, or relationships to certain things. For instance, I have anxiety, right? I have battled anxiety, worry, for many, many years in my life, always struggling with the future, wondering, am I going to be able to get this right? Sticking myself in this never-ending hamster wheel of, am I going to get this right? And what happens if I don't do this? What happens if I don't do that? the amount of energy that it takes to keep that wheel moving every single day will totally drain you. The attachments to our traumas in the past totally drain us because we label ourselves with these things. I'm a survivor of this, and absolutely, trauma is a very real instance. Don't belittle anyone for engaging with the trauma however they need to. The healing process is not one way. There's no objective way to heal any one trauma. But there is a pitfall within each emotional trauma that we suffer where we either decide that we want to heal from it or we want to be stuck with it for the rest of our lives. And that attachment can be very draining. The same thing with agreements, things that we agree on with ourselves. Just agreeing that this is a desk, this is a computer that I'm speaking to you through, takes a little bit of energy for me to uphold this worldview. Almost like a matrix. Like our mind, our being, our subconscious and conscious mind fabricates this entire reality for us. Don Miguel Ruiz says it best. It's a dreaming. We're all dreaming our own little worlds. And within those worlds, it's built of all these little contracts that we put together and agree on. Probably the biggest piece of this pie, though, is what we believe about the world or what we believe about ourselves. Now, I've got an arbitrary number here, 29.4% on our beliefs, so it's probably much bigger than that. And everybody's makeup is a little bit different. But just imagine where you're sitting right now. If 30% or more of the energy you have available to you in each and every day is taken up immediately upon waking up. Immediately. And now I don't have access to that energy. Well, it's no wonder I can't get anything done. Especially if I have so many of those beliefs tied up in a negative belief or something that is out of alignment with who I am at my core or who I want to be. Take money, for instance. Money doesn't grow on trees is a limiting belief that has caught people by the pant legs for many decades, many centuries even, or I'm just not good enough for that, or I'm not good at math, whatever it is, will hold you back. It will provide an energetic drag, and it will even make this free percentage of power, right, this 14.7, another arbitrary number, will make that even harder to tow. If I'm only operating on 14% power, how efficient do you think I'm going to be in manifesting a brand new life? You're not. And so what we need to do is identify all the different areas where we are suffering needlessly just because of our beliefs.